Thank God, my dad has finally accepted my love. For the longest time, I thought this day would never come. That no matter how much I tried, no matter how much I fought for what I felt, he would never see things the way I did. His disapproving looks, his harsh words, the way he dismissed my love like it was just some passing phase, something I would grow out of. I lived with that weight for so long, carrying the pain of knowing that the person I loved was the one thing my father could never accept. Until today. Today everything changed. The battle that almost broke me. It wasn't easy. The arguments, the silences, the times he refused to even acknowledge her name. He had already decided she wasn't the right one for me, and no matter how much I pleaded, no matter how much I tried to show him what she meant to me, he wouldn't listen. He saw only what he wanted to see. Differences, barriers, reasons to keep us apart. I started to wonder if love was supposed to be this hard. If fighting for someone you love meant constantly proving to the world that they deserve to be yours. It exhausted me. Made me question if I had the strength to keep going. But every time I looked at her, I knew giving up was never an option. The moment everything changed. I don't know what made him finally see the truth. Maybe it was the way I refused to walk away. Maybe it was the way she stayed even when things got hard. Or maybe he just got tired of being at war with me. But today he sat across from me, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. And then for the first time he said the words I never thought I'd hear. If she makes you happy, then that's all that matters. Just like that, the fight was over. The years of resistance, of trying to make him understand, of waiting for him to see what I saw, it all led to this moment. A moment where love finally won. I sat there, stunned, replaying his words in my mind. If she makes you happy, then that's all that matters. For so long, I had imagined this moment, hoped for it, prayed for it. And now that it was here, I didn't know what to say. I expected more resistance, another battle, another speech about how he knew what was best for me. But instead he just looked at me, his eyes carrying something I wasn't used to seeing. Not disappointment, not frustration, but acceptance. The struggle that brought us here. I thought back to all the times I had tried to change his mind, how I had fought so hard to prove that my love was real. The late night arguments, the days where he barely spoke to me, the times he made it clear that he wouldn't give his blessing, no matter how much I begged. And yet, I never gave up, because walking away from her, that was never an option. Why did he change his mind? I wanted to ask him what had made the difference. Had he seen something in her that he never noticed before? Had he realized that pushing me away wasn't the answer? Or had he just grown tired of standing in the way of something he couldn't control? Maybe it didn't matter, because for the first time, he wasn't fighting me anymore. For the first time, he was letting me be happy. She deserves to know. I needed to tell her, to let her know, that all the pain, all the waiting, all the hoping, it had finally paid off. That we no longer had to prove ourselves. That she was no longer just the woman he disapproved of. She was part of the family now, and as I reached for my phone, my hands shaking with excitement, I realized this was the moment we had been waiting for all along. As I dialed her number, my heartbeat pounded in my ears. She had been patient through everything. She had stood by my side when it felt like my father would never change his mind. And now, finally, I could give her the words she had waited so long to hear. He accepted us. The silence on the other end lasted only a second, but it felt like forever. Then her voice, soft, almost disbelieving. He did. Yes, I whispered, my throat tightening. It's over. We don't have to fight anymore. The weight that's finally lifted. For so long his disapproval had been a wall between us, a shadow that lingered over every moment, no matter how much we tried to ignore it. And now, that wall was gone. I didn't have to choose between my family and the woman I loved. I didn't have to keep proving what we already knew, that we were meant to be together. For the first time, we could just be. Her reaction meant everything. I expected her to cry, to let out all the emotions she had held inside for so long. But instead, she let out a laugh, one filled with relief, with joy, with disbelief. "We did it," she said. And for the first time, in a long time, I felt the tension leave my chest. Yes, we did. Facing my father again, as I hung up the phone, I turned back to my father. For so long, I had seen him as the obstacle, the man who refused to see my love the way I did. But today, he was just my father again, not my opponent, not the man standing in the way, just my father, who had finally chosen to accept the choice I had already made. And as we sat there in silence, something unspoken passed between us, a truce, a new beginning. The end of a battle neither of us ever wanted to fight again. I never thought I would see the day when my father would look at me without the weight of disapproval hanging between us. But here we were, sitting across from each other. No more walls, no more anger, just the quiet understanding that something had changed. He had let go of his resistance, and in doing so he had given me something I had wanted for so long. His blessing, a silent acknowledgement. For a moment neither of us spoke. It wasn't awkward or tense, just a pause filled with years of unspoken emotions. Then he finally sighed. "I was wrong," he admitted, his voice lower than usual. I swallowed hard. Hearing those words felt unreal. "I just wanted what was best for you," he continued, staring at his hands. "But I see now that what's best for you is her." Those words struck deep, not because I needed validation. I already knew I loved her, but because for the first time, he saw it too. Telling her the news in person. I didn't want to tell her over the phone. She deserved more than that. So, I got in my car and drove straight to her place. When she opened the door, she could tell something was different. "What happened?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "He finally accepted us." For a moment she just stared. Then, without a word, she threw her arms around me, holding on like she never wanted to let go. I felt her relief, her happiness, her disbelief, all of it. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just my victory. It was ours. What comes next? For so long, I had been stuck in the fight, caught between love and family, never knowing when or if things would change. But now, the fight was over. The road ahead was finally clear. We didn't have to prove anything anymore. All we had to do was live. As she held me, I felt the weight of all the struggles we had endured begin to fade. For so long we had lived in uncertainty, never knowing if my father would ever change his mind. Now, for the first time, we could truly breathe. She pulled back, her eyes searching mine, as if trying to make sure this wasn't just a dream. "Are you sure?" she whispered. I nodded, holding her hands in mine. "Yes, it's real. He's finally with us, not against us." Her lips trembled, and I saw emotions flicker across her face. Relief, happiness, disbelief. I never thought this day would come. Neither did I, but it had. And now the life we had fought for was finally ours to live. Returning home feels different. Walking back into my father's house later that evening, I expected to feel the same tension that had always been there. But something had shifted. The air was lighter. The silence between us no longer heavy with unspoken words. He looked at me when I entered the room, not with judgment, not with disappointment, just as his son. "She's a good woman," he said after a pause. I exhaled slowly, taking in the weight of that simple statement. She is, I replied. There was nothing more to say. For the first time there was no need to argue, no need to defend my love, because now he saw her for who she was, not as a mistake, not as a problem, but as the woman I chose. Looking toward the future, later that night I sat outside, looking up at the sky. It felt like a new chapter had begun, one where love didn't have to be hidden, one where I could walk forward with her, without hesitation, without doubt. The fight was over. And in the end, love had won. I never thought peace would feel this unfamiliar. For so long I had been trapped in an endless cycle of trying to prove that my love was real. And now, with my father's acceptance, there was nothing left to fight for, only something to build. The first family dinner together. A few days later we sat at the same table, my father, my love, and me. It felt surreal. She had been here before, but always with unspoken tension hanging in the air. This time it was different. He wasn't just tolerating her presence. He was welcoming her. Would you like more? He asked her, gesturing to the dish in front of him. She smiled, nodding. Yes, thank you. It was a small moment, but to me it meant everything. No more looking over my shoulder. For the first time I wasn't bracing myself for another argument. I wasn't waiting for him to question my choices or dismiss my happiness. I could just exist with her, with him, together. Her happiness means everything. Later that evening, as we walked home, she squeezed my hand. I feel like I can finally breathe, she said softly. I turned to her, seeing the relief in her eyes. She had never let the struggle break her. She had stayed. She had believed in us when things felt impossible. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just the end of a battle. It was the start of something new, something real, something that no one, not even my father, could ever take away from us again. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't the kind that held judgment or disappointment. It was comfortable, peaceful, something I had wanted for so long. For the first time, I didn't have to defend my choices. I didn't have to fight for my happiness. My father had finally let go, a new beginning. I watched him as he spoke with her, not with hesitation, not with forced politeness, but with genuine effort. He asked her about her work, about the little things that made up her world, and she answered him easily, no longer guarded. This was the moment I had prayed for, a moment where she wasn't just my love, but someone he was finally willing to see for who she was. Letting go of the past. I thought back to the arguments, the tension, the nights I had wondered if this day would ever come. For the longest time, I had feared I would have to choose, that I would either lose my father or lose the woman I loved. But now, that fear was gone. He had made his choice, and his choice was to let me live my life. The moment I knew it was real, as we got ready to leave, my father did something unexpected. He looked at her and said, "Take care of him." A simple sentence, but it held a lifetime of meaning. It was his way of telling us that he had finally made peace with it all. That this wasn't just reluctant acceptance, it was real. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. We had been through so much, but in the end, love had won, and that was all that mattered.